Hey guys, Hammeh here, and rounding up quickly for you today a bunch of changes that may or may not be coming to Overwatch, but they are certainly big changes coming to a few heroes live on the public test realm if you're on PC for you to take a look at right now. First things first, I'll quickly deal with what's happening with competitive play in Season 2. A bit of a change here in that skill rating is now going to be measured on a 1 to 5,000 scale instead of the former 1 to 100 scale. You'll be assigned a tier depending on your rating. That's Bronze, Silver, Gold, Platinum, Diamond, Master or Grandmaster. And in every tier up to Diamond, you won't drop out of the tier even if your skill rating falls below the cutoff for that tier. However, in Master and Grandmaster, if you fall below, you will fall out of that tier. Skill rating is going to decay, so if you're in Diamond Master or Grandmaster and you haven't played in a competitive match for 7 days, you will lose some rating. And if you've got a skill rating above 3,000, so Diamond tier or higher, you're going to lose 50 skill rating points every 24 hours, but you're not going to fall below Diamond. Competing in a single match will halt skill rating decay, and players that haven't played in a match for 7 days will immediately drop out of the top 500. This is all designed to stop people in the high ranks from getting into those ranks and then not playing again just to stay there. Okay, onto the hero balance changes. D.va's had a quick change. She's been feeling pretty powerful lately because of her defense matrix, but now it's going to have probably a regeneration after a 1 second delay. Formerly it was half a second. Now the reason for that was because it was too efficient when being tapped, so you see a lot of D.vas just tapping defense matrix and defending themselves and their team in a very efficient way. Now the delay on recovery matches the actual ability cooldown. People actually have to hold it. Hanzo's got a bit of a buff here. He will experience a 30% decrease in speed while aiming. Formerly it was 40%, and the maximum projectile speed has been increased by 30%. So that's faster arrows for Hanzo and less speed decrease while he's aiming. Dev reasons, Hanzo has the potential to deal a lot of damage according to the patch notes, but they felt that he felt inconsistent even at a medium distance. So with faster projectile speed, his reliable range is increased, which apparently is going to make it easier to land shots without having to perfectly predict enemy movement unless you're Hammeh, in which case it's still going to be quite tricky due to my wonderful aiming skills. The other interesting thing is that changes in projectile size have also been reversed. A lot of people on PTR are saying that Hanzo feels even stronger due to the fact that hitboxes and the projectile size are now kind of back to where they were. We're going to have to see how that one plays out. But remember, these are all in testing rather than committed to live at the moment. Mei's got a bit of a quality of life change. Her blizzard projectile with snowball now pierces barriers and the radius has been made a bit bigger. Devs felt that Mei's ultimate was a little bit hard to use effectively and it felt a bit weak compared to other ultimates, so there we go. Freeze effect has been piercing barriers of course, but you couldn't throw snowball with your blizzard through a Reinhardt shield. Now you can do that, you can put it exactly where you want it, so it's going to be better to use that full and slightly larger radius now effectively. McCree's Deadeye now drains over a 0.25 second period instead of displaying a 50% reduction when it's been activated and 0% when confirmed. Now, if players manage to counter or avoid McCree's ulti, according to dev notes, it would often regenerate fast because only half of the ultimate charge was spent. Now this ultimate works like every other ultimate that has a duration. Totally understand the consistency of this change. Smart McCree players are going to have to think a little bit more as to whether they want to even use their Deadeye to start with, rather than doing a half use of it and then perhaps coming back to it quite quickly later. Mercy's felt a little bit weak recently due to some of the tweaks to other healing heroes. Mercy's healing per second has increased by 20% and her resurrected allies will be able to maneuver after 2.25 seconds. That's been reduced from 3. So Res is now going to allow teammates to jump back into the fight more quickly according to patch notes, and that should help Mercy survive more after activating her ultimate, because of course they can all come and protect her a bit more in theory. Mercy's healing is getting a boost to solidify her role as a strong single target healer. When we have a bit of a chat about Zen and Lucio later in this patch notes, I can totally see why these changes have been made. Hopefully it's going to make Mercy slot back into healing a bit more rather than being the 3rd pick that she is now, sometimes even 4th pick. Now Genji has really had a nerf bat this patch, there's no real other way to describe it. Double jump no longer resets while wall climbing, dash no longer deals damage to traps like Widowmaker's Venomine or Junkrat's Steel Trap, more of a consistency change, and it no longer bypasses Junkrat's Steel Trap either. Swift Strike will no longer interrupt quick melee attacks, and Dragon Blade has had its duration decreased from 8 seconds to 6 seconds. Dev comments, Genji was a little too difficult to pin down and he's now balanced on his speed according to this. Swift Strike doesn't cancel the recovery time from a quick melee. Players can't get a free melee attack before using Swift Strike. And lastly, Dragon Blade's duration was long enough that it often felt too difficult to reasonably counter. So I can totally feel the change on Dragon Blade. Genji's ultimate did feel very, very long and skilled players could really use that to great effect. However, the other changes feel a little bit tough, particularly these animation cancelling ones. Part of this is part of the skill of Overwatch. I do get that if people can't do these particular change of skills, then a dev point that has been made on the forums, I think by Jeff Kaplan or someone else, is that people don't feel as though they want to pick up a hero if they've got this barrier to the skill in the way. Now I do understand that, but Genji's animation cancel was certainly something that would set a good Genji player out from an average one. It's going to be interesting to see if with all of these changes, including that animation cancel, Genji's had a little bit too much of a hit, and it'll be interesting to see in the competitive or even esports meta and sort of picks whether he just totally falls out of the reckoning. Lucio's Amp It Up has had boosting of movement speed decreased by 30%, was 100, is now 70. Lucio was pretty much number one pick. He's always been really strong, even since beta. His damage was decreased, now his speed's been decreased, and I get the reason for this. Lucio's speed is really the most powerful thing in his kit, particularly when you look at competitive and esports play. The fact that people can use his speed to engage and disengage, get back to the fight more quickly. His healing is great, but a good Lucio is toggling between healing and speed so that he can speed people into and away from combat, as well as just having the healing aura on. I think that he's still going to be picked because of this. He's just going to be a little bit less powerful than he was before. Roadhog's chain hooks had a bit of a quality change. If the hook target isn't in Roadhog's line of sight when retracting the hook, they're now going to be moved back to the position where they were originally hooked. This change means, according to dev notes, that hook targets will be less likely to slide along walls, potentially ending up in an odd place after they've been reeled in. So that's totally a quality of life change. Makes perfect sense, and it means that Roadhogs aren't going to get anything too funky or indeed lucky with their actual hooks. Zenyatta's Orb of Discord is having a tweak down. The amount of damage amplified by a target with Orb of Discord has been decreased from 50% to 30%. However, his Orbs of Destruction are now going to do 46 damage rather than 40. So remember last patch, Zenyatta had a big bunch of buffs to his speed while in Transcendence, and also the amount of healing throughput that he had. Devs felt that the strength of Orb of Discord has turned him into an almost mandatory pick. The changes reduce Orb of Discord's effectiveness, but his damage dealing potential has been slightly tweaked up, and he shouldn't be doing too much more damage with this change. Outside of Lucio, when we talked about Mercy and Lucio earlier in these notes, Zen has become pick number 2, pretty much for any skilled team in a 2 support kind of composition. So looking at esports play, looking at competitive play, and indeed some even quick play, people have cottoned on to the fact that a well-played Zen as a second support behind a Lucio can really make much more of a difference perhaps than really a Mercy, even with the Resurrect. Finally, a couple of other general changes and map changes after the heroes. Watchpoint Gibraltar has lost its first cap point. Balance changes according to dev team in other areas have eliminated the need for it to have it. New bits that are nice to have a look at. New allied health bars option has been added in options and controls, as well as a few other bits and bobs too. So do go and have a look at those over on the patch notes page that I've linked in the description below. Thanks so much for having a quick look at these. What do you think of these changes? Are any of your favourite heroes affected in a good way or a bad way? Do you think that this is going to be a little bit too much of a nerf bat for Genji, for example? Are you going to be trying to play Mercy more in play? And what do you think of the changes for D.va? Is she still going to be as strong as she's been recently, or is she going to drop down a bit? Thanks for your patience in my lore stuff. I've got Lorebytes and I've got Voicelines. They're both being worked on. It's been a real busy week this week with gamescom, so thank you for tuning in and thank you for your patience. Also, quick shout as well, I'd like to start doing a few AMA videos every month or something like that. So if you've got any questions or anything that you'd like to ask me just in general about Overwatch, about gaming, or about anything else, within reason of course, do let us know in the comments below. Cheers for tuning in. I'm Hammeh. Take it easy, guys.